The world is in a global race to nationalize chip fabrication. Many countries have joined the race, allocating more than $370 billion of government subsidies to secure their national supply chain of semiconductors. This global race is a response to the pandemic supply chain shortage crisis in 2020 and the following chip war that escalated between the US and China, which was covered on this channel in these 3 episodes. So what are the countries that have joined this global race? And what subsidies amounts were announced by each to build their semiconductor chip capacities? Which of these countries is currently ahead in this global arms race in terms of attracted investments and actual fab construction progress? And what are the implications of this global race on complicating supply chains for semiconductors and the fight over talent? To answer these questions, I'll be capitalizing on the latest report published by the Semiconductor Industry Association in May 24 by simplifying its findings and adding further related research and news materials.
Governments and companies worldwide are ramping up efforts to bolster their semiconductor chip resilience. The U.S. CHIPS Act, signed into law in August 2022, committed $52 billion in grant incentives for manufacturing, R&D, and high-tech workforce development. In March 2024, China initiated the 3rd phase of its Integrated Circuit Industry Investment Fund, surpassing $142 billion since 2014. In a significant move, the EU CHIPS Act was approved in September 2023, allocating $47 billion to ensure that Europe stays competitive in this crucial technology. Around the world, various other incentive programs have either emerged or expanded, each with substantial budgets. For instance, Taiwan, the world leader, has committed $16 billion. South Korea has earmarked $55 billion. Japan has pledged $67 billion. And India is contributing $15 billion. Across Europe, several countries have announced their share of the EU CHIPS Act fund to bolster their national developments. Germany is investing $21.7 billion, Spain $12.9 billion, Italy $4.6 billion, France $3.1 billion, the Netherlands $2.7 billion, and the UK has joined this global race with an investment of $1.4 billion. So far, 12 countries have joined this global arms race in the most foundational technology that is powering our daily lives as well as our military forces.
The semiconductor supply chain is highly specialized and contains many stages which can fall into the categories in this chart: design, EDA and core IP, equipment, raw materials, wafer fabrication, assembly, test and packaging, or ATP. This chart also shows the share of each region in this global supply chain. If we simplify it, we can see that, for example, the US headquartered companies lead in design, core IP, and EDA. The United States, EU, and Japan jointly lead in equipment. Companies headquartered in China, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea lead in raw materials. South Korea and Taiwan headquartered companies lead the world in advanced node fabrication, the sub-10 nanometer chips, and ATP footprint is concentrated in China and Taiwan. These current supply chain concentrations are expected to vary within the next 10 years. According to the SIA report, a significant geographic diversification is expected in 2 main areas: in wafer fabrication and in ATP, assembly, test, and packaging, with diversification of activities outside China and Taiwan. However, according to the SIA report, it's unlikely that ATP will locate in the United States due to cost pressures, except for some certain advanced packaging facilities near new fab sites. To date, governments and industry efforts have been focusing substantially on wafer fabrication, with a projected $2.3 trillion of private investments within the period from 2024 till 2032. This can be seen in over 100 major semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem projects that have been announced both around the globe and to new locations within each major region since 2020. And for ATP investments, assembly, test, and packaging, China and Taiwan are still leading in terms of number of new investments announced since 2020. However, in terms of attracted investments and scale of projects to revamp a national supply chain of semiconductors, the United States initiatives were covered in episode 3 of the chip war, showing a massive momentum that's aiming to outpace China's effort to build their local chip capacities. All these large government subsidies and announced investments are putting a huge pressure on the most important asset necessary to bring these projects to life, which is the high-tech workforce. The semiconductor development and production industry rely on access to a workforce with diverse skill sets. And talent shortages are not limited to highly skilled engineers and computer scientists, but are also appearing in vocations spanning construction workers, technicians, electricians, master welders, pipe fitters, and so on. Without these workers, semiconductor manufacturing capacity cannot be adequately built and operated. According to SIA, 67,000 jobs as technicians, computer scientists, and engineers will go unfilled by 2030, and a gap of 1.4 million workers across the United States' broader economy will be unfilled by the same date. Accordingly, all these nations that joined the global race for chip supremacy are facing real challenges to secure the necessary workforce to preserve a winning spot in this race. From empowering STEM education, building technician colleges, and offering specialized training programs, apprenticeships, and certifications, all are competing to nurture the necessary workforce. And this where actually Asian countries have a clear advantage due to their large populations and well-established educational programs and mature semiconductor ecosystems. However, attracting foreign talents and offering specialized visa programs for specific skill sets is an important policy practice in the West, offering them a significant advantage as well. But of course not without cultural clashes in this global race to technology dominance that's now flavored with a nationalistic spirit and pride among different nations. So which country do you think will be able to attract more investments in this global race? Please leave a comment below with your opinion in this developing story of the global race to chip dominance.